So there was a time when you could look at the law, our judicial system, and you'd say, you know what, it's safely nonpartisan, it's not politicized, and it's not supposed to be kind of influenced by who's sitting in the Oval Office. We can't say that anymore, right? We cannot say that anymore. So then you would think, numbers are a safe space. They're objective. Numbers, are 2 plus 2 is 4. Well, now we're in the Trump administration, especially Trump term 2.0, where the guardrails are just completely gone, where there are no adults in the room, and when a hyper-partisan hack can become the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I know this is not new news to you, that Trump has decided to reward loyalists in his administration with key positions. That is a day ending in Y. But when it starts to seep into our numbers, and listen, I'm not trying to suggest that having a partisan hack in charge of our secretary, like our Secretary of Defense, or a partisan hack like our Attorney General of DOJ, or a partisan hack in any of these cabinet positions, I'm not suggesting in any way that those are also not important political hack positions. But this commissioner of the BLS stuff is driving me nuts. And I had to do a video on it because I want you to understand the type of person that Donald Trump is putting in this critical role of commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So let's just rewind the clock by maybe a couple of weeks when Donald Trump fired the then commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just hours after the BLS issued a report that showed that hiring had actually slowed significantly over the last 3 months under the Trump administration. And because Trump is such a thin-skinned little shit with zero self-awareness and zero concern for, maybe taking those accurate numbers and then righting the sinking ship, instead of saying, I am going to do something to fix these numbers and fix the economy, instead he decided that he's going to fire Erica McIntyre, who is the longtime commissioner of the BLS. When those jobs reports came out, Trump immediately ordered that his administration terminate her from her job, to fire her. He posted on Truth Social, that cesspool of a social media platform, he said, quote, "We need accurate jobs numbers. She will be replaced with somebody much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes." Later on, he then went on to say, "In my opinion, today's jobs numbers were rigged," in all caps, because he loves that shit, "in order to make the Republicans and me," in all caps, "look bad." He doesn't need any help. The Republicans and Trump don't need any help making them look bad. But according to Trump, McIntyre rigged the numbers. But of course, he doesn't cite any evidence, right? It's just the wholesale throw the crap on the wall and see if anything sticks, and see who actually drills down and asks for evidence and proof, because that the far-right media is never going to follow up on this. And we know we're going to ask for it in the land of truth and honesty, and he's never going to provide it because, that's how he rolls. So what exactly was the data that triggered him so badly? Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the United States economy added only 73,000 jobs in July, which was well below anticipated estimates. It also revised the May and the June numbers, and it turns out that those numbers were much lower than previously announced by more than 200,000 jobs. So triggered, Kangles McDonald decides that he is just going to fire Erica McIntyre, who by all accounts is an incredible professional and has done her job exceptionally well. So in the meantime, the deputy commissioner of the BLS is the acting chief while they're looking for a replacement. And now we know who the replacement is going to be. Before I get there, though, I want to share this with you. NBC News did this reporting. I'm not sure if y'all caught this, but I wanted to share it. So MacArthur was a Joe Biden nominee in 2023. She was confirmed by the United States Senate in an 86-8 vote in January of 2024, receiving, quote, overwhelming bipartisan support in her vote. Pretty clear, those numbers, right? Who was amongst the Republicans that actually voted to confirm her? Vice President J.D. Vance, who was then a senator, right? So when questioned as to his vote to confirm Erica McIntyre, this is what he had to say, or his comms director had to say. Vice President Vance is completely aligned with President Trump and was glad to see him dismiss the BLS commissioner. President Trump has the right to hire and fire the people he wants to staff the government he was elected in a landslide to run. And it's high time the left-wing activists and the mainstream media recognize that simple fact, end quote. No. President Trump may have the right, but as the saying goes, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because he can, Trump can hire and fire, it doesn't mean that he should, especially when somebody is doing their job well. But of course, you can't have somebody who tells the truth in the Trump administration, because God forbid you do that, because it makes him look bad. So, and by the way, Trump also previously praised the numbers reports that came out from the BLS, openly stating that they were so great when they were favorable numbers or favorable reports. But of course, now, after he fired Erica McIntyre, now he is looking for somebody who's going to make him feel good. I mean, he really is the guy who only wants somebody to tell him something that makes him feel good, look good, you know, that type of thing, which, by the way, him looking good is impossible. So who has Trump now announced that he is going to use as the commissioner of BLS? And by the way, footnote, still has to be Senate confirmed. So it's not a done deal, but we've seen what happened with Senate confirmations through Trump so far. A guy named E.J. Antoni is the nomination by Donald Trump. He's the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation, which we all know is a hyperpartisan conservative organization. Now, here's what's wild. I am going to go through the litany of responses in response to Trump's nomination of Antoni, and they cover the waterfront from conservative to, quote, liberal. Take a listen. Antoni's fellow conservatives criticize his record as the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. According to a senior fellow at the conservative American Enterprise Institute, Antoni's work has frequently included elementary errors or nonsensical choices that all bias his findings in the same partisan direction. An economist at the American Institute for Economic Research, also a conservative outlet, wrote, he has worked with Antoni before and implored the Senate to block Antoni's nomination. Quote, I have been on several programs with him at this point and have been impressed by two things: his inability to understand basic economics and the speed with which he's gone MAGA. That is a guy named Dave Hebert or Hebert. He's an economist. In addition, conservative economists say that Antoni appears to misunderstand the very data that he would be responsible for as the commissioner of the BLS. A fellow at the Conservative Manhattan Institute said that Antoni cited the rising number of Americans who aren't in the labor force without accounting for the role of the aging population in that number. Daniel DiMartino, this is that guy, he says, this is one of the many elementary errors that show me that Antoni is unqualified for the labor market data collection and analysis role he was nominated to do. Another senior Manhattan Institute fellow shared another example. Antoni did not know the BLS's measure of import prices did not account for the impact of tariffs. And we know that tariffs are the go-to response by Trump when he wants to distract and destroy. Quote, the articles and tweets I have seen Antoni publish are probably the most error-filled of any think tank economist right now. I hope we see better at BLS. And that's Jessica Rydell. Then on the other end of the spectrum, on the, quote, liberal end or the left end of the spectrum, we have the former chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors under Obama saying E.J. Antoni is completely unqualified to be BLS commissioner. And another chief economist said that Antoni's suggestion that he would suspend the monthly jobs report would only fuel critiques of a politicization of a job market data and likely result in volatility across asset classes. So what is Joe Brusuelas talking about? Oh, well, apparently Antoni went on Fox News Digital and said that he thinks that the monthly jobs report that the market, the government, that everybody's relying upon to be able to kind of formulate and kind of get into the planning of where we're going to go as an economy. Antoni says that those monthly jobs reports should be suspended in favor of quarterly, but we're going to get into that in a second. Check out this timeline because it's just so on point for Trump's administration. On August 1st, right after that weak employment report that Erica McIntyre got fired for, Antoni went on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast. Bannon asked Antoni the following: have we put in our own person into BLS? Is a MAGA Republican that President Trump knows and trusts? Are they running the Bureau of Labor Statistics yet? Antoni replied to Steve Bannon, no, unfortunately, Steve, we still haven't gotten there. He then went on to say that Erica McIntyre, the then head of BLS, was, quote, incompetent. Okay. So, Antoni does have a PhD in economics from Northern Illinois University, but he has spent virtually his entire career apparently only working for conservative think tanks like the Heritage Foundation. Kyle Pomerleau, an economist at the American Enterprise Institute, which is a conservative think tank, says this about Trump's nominee, Antoni. Quote, he has either shown a complete misunderstanding of economic data and principles, or he's showing a willingness to treat his audience with contempt and mislead them, end quote. Not only does Antoni go on Newsmax, Fox Business, Fox News regularly, but he does not hide his support of super MAGA Trump beliefs. So why is the BLS data so important? Excuse me for that sound. Federal officials rely on BLS data on unemployment and prices when they set interest rates. The Social Security Administration uses the Consumer Price Index, which is produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, to determine annual cost of living adjustments for tens of millions of retirees. The IRS uses it when adjusting tax brackets. Investors use the data when weighing their portfolios. Schools and colleges across the United States use BLS employment projections to advise students on what careers to pursue. And this is according to the New York Times. Let's stop for a second and talk about Social Security. Take a listen to what Trump nominee E.J. Antoni says about Social Security.
Social Security is rapidly becoming insolvent because it was basically set up as a Ponzi scheme, so it can't go on forever.
A Ponzi scheme? The nominee for commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying that Social Security is a, quote, Ponzi scheme. Does that not tell you how absolutely perilous a situation our country is about to be in if this guy ends up being the head of the BLS? Kyle Pomerleau, the guy that I just mentioned a few minutes ago, from the American Enterprise Institute, also said this: statistics are not meant to be in the service of any president. They're not meant to be in the service of any administration. This is important economic data that is intertwined with policymaking in the public and private sector. We cannot fool around with that for partisan reasons. I mean, it's really remarkable to me that this is where we find ourselves, where, again, numbers are about to be manipulated just to make Donald Trump feel better about himself. A small, little, petty guy, weak, insecure, little guy in so many different ways, little hands, little stuff. Because he is so insecure, we as Americans need to suffer financially and economically because Trump needs to have somebody do things to make him feel better? Well, I will tell you this. Senator Patty Murray of Washington said the following about Antoni. Any senator who votes to confirm this partisan hack is voting to shred the integrity of our nation's best economic and jobs data, which underpin our entire economy. If E.J. Antoni gets confirmed, I hope Republicans like playing make-believe because that is all BLS data will become. Hot damn, Senator Murray. Tell it like it is. To add insult to injury, not only is Antoni a partisan hack, not only is Antoni not qualified and incompetent to do the job of commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but oh yeah, Antoni was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Now, by all accounts, he didn't enter the U.S. Capitol, but who in the actual hell, in the midst of the chaos, violence, and the horror of this insurrection going on January 6th, just meanders along and works their way to the United States Capitol? According to the White House, he was just a, quote, bystander. He was in town for meetings, and it is wrong and defamatory to suggest EJ engaged in anything inappropriate or illegal. Look, you don't even need to be engaging in shit on January 6th. I think it's bad enough that, and y'all, I'm going to try to show this to you here, but I'm also going to have my producer, amazing producer Sydney, put this up on the screen. This is him, the guy circled. Do you see him right there? Does it look like he's just a bystander hanging out? I mean, my actual Lord, look at this. This is him. This, in and of itself, should be disqualifying. Disqualifying from A, having a job, but B, most certainly having a job in the Trump administration, and C, having a job that has so much importance to all of us. It impacts all of us. This is a time of wackadoo shit that is so Trump specific and Trump just typical. And yet we're going to have Senate confirmation hearings over this guy. Serenity now. Let's see what happens. Let's see if smarter, cooler, better heads prevail on this one, because look, I couldn't do the damn job, but I'm not trying to be nominated for it. We need to have people that are competent, intelligent, but also nonpartisan in roles in this administration that are supposed to be nonpartisan roles. You can be partisan and you can be biased in other type of jobs, but you know what? In these, and also, I don't know, your attorney general, you know, I don't know, your Third Circuit Court of Appeals judges, Emil Bovee, yeah, it doesn't count, right? Like, these jobs, they should be nonpartisan. This is insanity. Insanity. That these are the kinds of videos that I am doing to have to explain the kind of, you know, incompetent hacks that are going to be up for jobs that are of critical importance. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability. Share this video. This is your channel. This is your information. This is your news, and let people know exactly the kind of people, the lack of quality that Donald Trump is trying to shove down our throats. I'll catch you on the other side. Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.